Most mornings, as I'm downing my first cup of coffee, I try to read part of the Washington Post. Usually the front page, and maybe I'll get into the Metro section, and maybe I'll glance at my news feed on my phone. These days, I find it can be tough reading, looking at the front page, and then as you get into the Metro section, especially if you read the little pieces in the Metro section. And it's tough because you just start to discover how much bad behavior is going on in politics, in our schools, in our streets, in our homes. And Lord, don't get me started with social media and the kind of comments that fly around with any little post. Now, it's not all bad out there, but it seems like we're starting to discover that there is a mean, harsh, disturbing way of acting that's kind of common in our country. And a lot of people get hurt. I've become convinced that at least part of the reason behind this behavior, part of what's driving this, I think, is a deep emptiness and a crisis of meaning that seems to be plaguing our society. Now, our culture offers us entertainment, lots of self-medication, distractions galore, constant consumption. And these are meant to be the solution to this problem. I think they're actually part of the cause. Indeed, really don't help. This is a serious issue. It plagues the young and the old. This sense of emptiness and crisis of meaning. And I sense it's just below the surface of our busyness and of our distractedness. But we believe in the good news. And I do have good news this morning. And it's this. I think there is a way of experiencing real, substantial meaning and purpose in our lives that's so much more than more entertainment and more consumption. And here's what it is. St. Paul tells us what it is in the letter to the Philippians we heard this morning. Real meaning. If you want a meaningful life, learn to participate in the life of Christ. Actively participating in the life of Christ will bring you all sorts of surprising meaning in all kinds of ways and places. And this is what I want to share with you this morning. But let me just reiterate this. We can actually participate in the risen and divine life of Jesus now, here, today. And here's why. He's always with us. Remember at the end of Matthew's gospel, he's standing up on a mountain in Galilee, looking over the Sea of Galilee. And what does he say? He promises us, I will be with you always. Read the end of Romans chapter 8. What does Paul say? He says, nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. Not life or death or hunger, nothing can separate us from the life of Christ. You see, Jesus is with us. He's always walking with us. He's accompanying us. Do you remember the story of the two disciples leaving Jerusalem after the crucifixion? They're heading to Emmaus. Do you remember that story? Just say yes. And they're devastated, these people. I happen to think it's a husband and wife. And they're walking, Jesus has just been killed, all their hopes are gone, and they start talking to this stranger. Now we know it's Jesus, but they don't know it's him. And they don't discover it's him until he sits down and breaks bread with them. But notice this, we are like them. No matter what we do and where we go, he's walking with us. Whether we know it or not, he accompanies us. He's accompanying you when you wake up and when you go to bed. He's with you at school and at work. He's with you whether you're alone or with others. He's walking beside you if you're happy or whether you're sad. But you know what? There's more to this than his accompaniment. There's more than just Jesus walking with us. There's a sense in which not only does he walk with us, but somehow we walk in him. There's kind of a mysticism, a fundamental mysticism that every Christian participates in. Because not only does the Lord, the risen Lord, walk with us, but we somehow walk in him, and he dwells in us, and we dwell in him. This is what it means to participate in the divine and risen life of Jesus. None of us is on our own. None of us simply has to depend on our own resources and skills because they are very finite. No, he walks with us, but we walk in him, and we can participate in his very life. Whoa! Can I get an amen on that? Amen. But I have more for you. I got a lot more goodies for you today, even though it's not yet Christmas. You see, not only can you gain incredible meaning from beginning to discover in small ways that the Lord walks with you and that you walk in him, not only can you gain a lot of meaning in your life as you start to experience his energy and his insights and his wisdom because you walk in him, but there's more. There's a deeper way of finding meaning with Jesus because he wants us, as we walk with him, to become partners with him in the gospel. This is why Paul, he's writing this letter. He's in prison in Ephesus, and he's writing to these Christians in northern Greece, in Philippi. And even though he's in prison, you don't want to be in prison in the ancient Roman Empire. But even though he's in prison, he is overjoyed because he knows the entire community of the Philippians are partners with him in the gospel. Notice he doesn't say the priests are, the bishops. No, everyone. Every one of us, the minute we're baptized, are invited to become partners with Jesus in the gospel. Collaborators. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to go knocking door to door. Don't worry. Don't worry. No, it means something else. It means discerning in your own life, in your own situation. How does the Lord want you, need you to be a partner with him in spreading the gospel? Now, this takes faith. It does take faith. And here's why. It takes faith. We have to believe that God's kingdom is coming on earth to Silver Spring, Maryland, as it is in heaven. We have to believe that God's kingdom of justice and peace and reconciliation and love is coming. And one of the main ways it's coming is in and through us. So we have to discern. In what ways does the Lord want us to bring to others what we believe God is doing? Paul says, God's begun a good work in you. God's begun a good work in us. And he wants us to be partners because we believe that the kingdom is coming. And we put our allegiance, we pledge our allegiance to Jesus, to King Jesus who's bringing this about. And this takes faith, but it takes hope as well. To be a partner in the gospel takes hope. Because we do hope. Lord knows we have to hope that God's kingdom is coming. that our world of violence and injustice and cruelty will be replaced by God's kingdom of peace and justice and love. Can I get an amen? Because we need this, right? More than ever. But you know, being a partner in the gospel, above all, it takes love. Because the gospel is God's definitive act of love in Jesus. And he's asking us to allow ourselves to be pulled into that love that Jesus shares with the Father, so that we can spread that love to our friends and families, to our co-workers, to everyone in need. See, to participate in the life of Jesus and be a partner in the gospel is to know that love of Christ. And to allow it, as Paul says in Philippians, to allow it overflow into everything we do. For about 8 years, I was a spiritual director for a group called the Ignatian Volunteer Corps. It's an organization set up by the Jesuits, whereby they invite people who have retired to engage in service with the poor and learn more about Jesuit spirituality. And I watched as people would join this organization and I would get to them. I would watch time and time again the following happen. I remember a woman, her husband had died a couple of years ago, and she just desperately wanted more attention from her kids, but they were living in different places and very busy. And she joined the Ignatian Volunteer Corps and started serving the poor. And something fascinating happened. All of a sudden, that need that she had just seemed to disappear as a new sense of meaning and purpose began to fill her lives as she went out and cared for the poor. This is what it means to find meaning by participating in the life of Jesus, by being partners in the gospel. So here's what I want you to do in the coming weeks. I want you to ask the Lord, ask him to walk with you, to accompany you. Ask him to share his life with you. Ask him to teach you what it means for you to become a partner in the gospel. And this is simple. Each morning when you wake up, just ask the Lord, what do you want me to do today? I got like 3 to-do lists. But what do you want me to do today? You may rearrange them for you. As you go visit friends and families, you go to parties. It's a liberating question. How would you like me to be? What would you like me to do? How would you like me to be with these people? When you face changes in your life, instead of looking back at what you lost, imagine if you said to the Lord, what do you want to do with me now? What are we going to do with this now? How are you going to work with me now? Because we're people of the coming kingdom. So walk with the Lord this Advent. Participate in his life. Become a partner in the gospel, and your days will be filled with such meaning and love. Amen.